Hi, Kenny. Thank you for your time. We watched Lost at Christmas. We're all really enjoying it. Made us feel very Christmassy. Um, I wanted to go back to the very beginning, Kenny. My understanding is that 5 years ago, this was a short film called Perfect Strangers,
That's
which
absolutely
is
right. Yes.
ran about half an hour long. And I'm just wondering what's happened in the interim between it becoming a short film and now becoming a feature film.
Ah, so well, one of the things that's happened is that Ryan has become a far more established and accomplished creator of film. So, Perfect Strangers was a passion project that was supposed to be a demonstration of what Ryan could create in a larger project. So we did it, myself and the co-star of that short. We did it basically just out of love of the script and support for Ryan, and it was all very shoestring, and it was all very less than micro budget, non-existent budget. But Lost at Christmas is that same story fully realized in the way that it would have been if he had had the budget and the crew and the cast and the materials to have done that. So this is like the full realization of what that passion project wanted to be, and it's quite a magical thing to see it come into its own and become a real full feature film.
So I noticed that that short film, Perfect Strangers, you yourself obviously were in it, but you were playing opposite Claire Sheeran as
Yes.
Jane. Now I understand, obviously, she's not redoing her role opposite you in the feature film Lost at Christmas. Just wondering, what was the reason there? Do you know what the story was behind that?
Well, yes. So I don't know the reason why Claire isn't playing the role, but Claire is still in the movie. She has a cameo that you may not have noticed. So she plays the voice on the other end of the phone when Natalie's character Jen tries to phone a taxi to take us back to Glasgow. Claire Sheeran has her cameo as the voice on the other end of the phone mocking her for trying to get a taxi all the way to Glasgow from Fort William. So Claire does still appear. I think that the character's sort of different in the feature than it is from the short. Natalie plays it a lot. I don't know if you've seen the short. Have you?
I've not caught the short. No,
Oh, fair
no.
enough, fair enough. So the short is more comedy and actually probably more quickly romance because there's less time for things to happen. So it's a lot lighter and it's a lot fluffier in a way. And the way that Natalie plays the character of Jen is quite different from how Claire did, in that Natalie has to bring this feature film level of character to it that has a story that progresses over a long period of time and has a lot of emotional depth and emotional turmoil. Um, and Natalie does that fantastically, and I think it's really beautiful what the feature has become compared to the short, which was also wonderful. I'm very proud of the short as well, but I think the feature is just really this fantastic emotional journey, and it's really lovely to see.
Scotland and the Highlands, it's beautiful up there, and it's shot really beautifully. The locations and the landscapes look stunning in all the snow. But shooting in those conditions, with the cold of the snow, you've got another scene on a train platform in what appears to be utterly torrential rain. Um, Kind of doesn't look the greatest of conditions. As good as it looks on screen, it looks very uncomfortable conditions to have shot in. Was that the case?
Yes, it was very uncomfortable conditions. It's Scotland is another character. Whenever you try and film anything in Scotland, you can't rely on Scotland to show up knowing its lines, if you know what I mean. So when you want to film outside in Scotland, you've got to be ready to have weather that could relate to any single season of the year. So some days we'd show up, we wanted to film a snowy blizzard scene, and it would be beautiful sunlight, and we'd be like, well, this is a lovely day, but we can't do anything with it. And then that train station scene that you mentioned was the very first scene that we filmed in the entire movie. and it was pouring rain, and I was sitting on that bench, and there was a puddle at my feet. And when I first sat down, it was quite a small puddle. But as the filming day went on, this puddle was getting deeper and deeper and deeper, and I couldn't move position because that would ruin the continuity. And by the end of that filming day, I was up to my ankles in slushy water, and we couldn't move anywhere. And my feet felt like they were going to just drop off. I felt like I had actual frostbite, and that's the kind of thing that happened quite frequently because you can't rely on a nice amount of weather, or even the right kind of weather when you're in the Highlands of Scotland. But I think the payoff is that the film does look beautiful, and even though the weather is not very pleasant to be in amongst, it does make for a very nice visual image. So we suffer for our art, I suppose.
Did you have, especially with snow, because it's obviously it's real snow? Did you have continuity problems with that then?
I think that a lot of the continuity issues that may have arisen from snow were taken care of by our rather wonderful post production team, who would increase or decrease the amount of snow using CGI so
Oh
as
right.
each different camera angle would match with the last. And it must have been such an arduous procedure to literally pick out snowflakes one by one, but they did it. And really, by comparison, I'm sure that we actors had a very easy job.
Well, that's great. So for once, it's CGI not drawing attention to itself then.
Yeah, yeah, deliberately trying to be as subtle as possible because it's just a case of either increasing the level of snow or, in the very difficult situations, decreasing it a little bit.
So you've mentioned that, well, we spoke that this was come from a short film, but this looks as well, with all due respect, like it's been done on quite a tight budget as well. Was it a short shooting schedule? Was there a lot of pressure to, shoot more than, 3, 4 minutes a day?
Yes, we had 2 weeks, so we made this whole feature film in 2 weeks, and the majority of the cast only had 1 week. So Natalie and I, as the main characters, we had 2 weeks, and all of the other characters that you see, Sanji, Sylvester, Fraser, Claire, they were all only there for 1 week. So it was a very, very tight shooting schedule, and we did worry that we wouldn't be able to do it. But it all came down to the professionalism and the trust of every single person working there, not just in front of the camera, but behind the camera. So when you were in a scene with anyone in that cast, you knew that they would show up ready to work. They'd show up bringing their A game. They wouldn't need a couple of takes to get into the scene. We just brought our very strongest performance all the time, because you've got a whole film crew there with this really intense day ahead of them, and you don't want to be the one messing it up by doing something stupid, by like forgetting a line or something like that, when they've just spent an hour or more setting up lighting and setting up cameras. You just want everything to be perfect, as quickly as it can be, preferably in one take, so as you can get that done and move on to the next thing. And also, with the cast that we had and the crew that we had, we knew that we could do things quickly but still maintain a level of quality that we'd be proud of at the end.
Was the lodge, was that a location or was that a set?
Oh, that's the Clackig in Glencoe, and it's a location. It's a beautiful, beautiful place in Glencoe, and I fully recommend everyone goes and visit it. The owners are lovely. On our few days off, they took us on little tours around Glencoe to visit the location of Skyfall and to feed wild deers. It was amazing. They took really good care of us. They went above and beyond. And if you're ever driving through Glencoe, then stop in at the Classic. Highly recommend it.
So you've got some great actors as support with you. You've got Sylvester McCoy, you've got Fraser Hines, and Sylvester McCoy, especially with the pedigree that he's got from, Doctor Who, right back to the '70s and Tiswas of all things. How did you find working with them? I can.
Amazing. It was an absolute dream come true, to be honest. Sylvester has no ego at all. He is the nicest man. He is hilarious. He would make me break out laughing in every single scene that I had with him. So he'd sort of film his bit very very seriously when the camera was on him, and then when the camera reversed and was on me, he'd just make me laugh, just for the joy of it. It was lovely to be around, and Sanjeev is hilarious. Do you know there wasn't a single member of the cast that I wasn't terrified to meet because of how well known they are and how legendary they are. And then there wasn't a single member of cast that was in any way a diva or in any way difficult to talk to. Every single one of them was like talking to an old friend, and I think that's really unique and special and rare. And Sylvester, I know Sylvester mostly from The Hobbit. I absolutely love the Hobbit movies and all the Lord of the Rings movies. And when he first showed up on set, I was like, oh my goodness, that's Radagast. I'm in a movie with Radagast. That's insane. But then within minutes, it felt like we'd known each other for years. So yeah, we meshed really well. So meeting them was intimidating, and then suddenly it was just completely normal. Lovely people, all of them.
So, just coming towards the end now, Kenny, I was just wondering. It looks like, time pressures aside, that it was quite a nice movie to shoot on. But I'm just wondering if you had any sort of problems with any particular scenes. Not in terms of from an acting point of view, in terms of where your mind is, but the physical problems of it. Because there's the scene where yourself and Natalie are driving in the Jag, a nice car too. But I'm not sure, if you're driving a car of that sort of value through, not great conditions, or whether you're on a low loader, if that had been a problematic scene at all.
We were on a low loader, and there is an outtake, a blooper, which I am sure will be coming out after the movie's released, of this low loader, which it turned out was too low. And this very expensive vintage car, every time we went over a hill, it scraped the hill. So Natalie and I are in this vintage car, which is the pride and joy of one of the crew members. And every time we went over a hill, we had to stop doing our lines because you get the sound of. We were worried that the exhaust was just getting torn off by the hills of Glencoe. so yeah, we were when we were in that low loader in that car, it was a very scary time for us. I think we would have been better off just driving it. But it's a temperamental car as well. So we tried driving it to begin with. Natalie tried driving it. But when you're not used to driving a vintage car and suddenly you have to drive it on camera, it's a very intimidating thing to do, especially when you're trying to act and do lines at the same time. So that didn't really work out great either. So yeah, that car was the bane of our lives, to be honest. Like, it looks really good on camera, but oh my goodness, so many problems with it. Like, we also couldn't get out of it. So it was very
Right.
graceful of us trying to exit the car when it's so close to the ground and trying to look good whilst basically falling on our faces. So I'm glad that it looks good in the movie. It makes it all worthwhile.
So I can't end the interview without asking you. This is a lovely Christmas film. This film aside, what's one of your, a couple of your favorite Christmas movies?
I should have a really solid answer for this by now because I've been asked it a few times, but I keep on going back to Gremlins, which
Okay.
is maybe not even a Christmas movie at all, and certainly isn't a feel-good Christmas movie. But I love Gremlins, but Nightmare Before Christmas as well. And I think for this interview, I'm going to throw in a wild card and say Jingle All the Way with Arnold Schwarzenegger. That's a classic, isn't it? Do you remember
Right.
that?
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. I do remember it. Yeah. Okay. Okay. I suppose you could throw in Die Hard, or that's
Yeah,
classic
Die Hard.
movie.
Do you know what? Here's a serious one. Elf. Elf's your quintessential Christmas movie, isn't
Okay.
it? That's got all of the joy and all of the happiness of
Yeah.
Christmas, and
Okay.
it's got a nice spirit to it, I think. So we'll go with Elf.
Okay. I'll buy that. Thanks,
Cool.
Kenny. Much appreciated. Lovely Christmas film. Thank you very much.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure. Cheers.